and you're both in priest outfits. That is hysterical because it was only one scene in Face Off that happened. It was such an iconic scene when we were filming that. Where was that? I think it was downtown in the LA Convention Center. I believe it's where we were filming that scene. I'm gonna have to look at the call sheets, which I kept, but I believe that's where we were filming that scene.
Listen, and people kept asking us, we did something on our channel to where we were like, hey, guys, we're trying to figure out what movie do we think you think we're doing? People were like Sister Act, The Exorcist, this, that, and the other. And then when they found out it was Face Off, it was just one scene. I was like, well, it's one of the most iconic scenes ever. And who doesn't want to be Nicolas Cage? That's all I'm saying.
He was just brilliant in that scene. It was perfect. He made it all up. You know what I mean? It was not scripted. He ad-libbed it all and he felt like it was going to work. From what I see, he edits in his own mind. He's editing his own scenes to work with the next scene or the previous scene in his own head. So if he makes it up on that spur of the moment, it's because he knows that it's going to work for the next segment of the film.
I love what you're doing. And before we get too far into it, like, do not lose this energy, because I'll be honest with you. When I said it's going to be a conversation, you jumped right into it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say 3 numbers. You've heard them before. It's called 3, 2, 1.
Then I see if he wants to ad-lib something or visually ad-lib something that's not on the script, because I'm always following the script. And then I didn't do something that he's doing. And I'm like, that's not in the script. Like when he does that Face Off with the whole thing, that wasn't scripted. You know what I mean? So I'm reading it and I'm like, what is that on the monitor? I thought, what? It was no rehearsal. He just did it. Yeah. And everybody just stood back. I was there with the writers as well. And everybody's kind of like mumbling, what? But he already thinks about how it could be edited. In his brain, he's already playing with the actors without telling them that he's going to do this. They have to react to his spontaneous, I want his face off. And Cassavetes would just jump into it and just take note because he's a pro. And that wasn't in there. And I was like, what's going on? And we're behind the monitor. You could see everybody's like watching. And then we're like, wait, what happened? Nobody says a word until the director calls cut. And then they do it again and again and again. And it's like, oh, wow. And then you get sucked into it, even though you're part of the crew. You're standing there. You've got the writers, you've got other crew members and cinematographer, and everyone's like, what's happening here? And you're just watching it. And I'm like, holy fuck, that's amazing. That is fucking brilliant. But you don't think about it until it's kind of like done, because he thought about it. So this guy's already 10 steps ahead of everybody else. He's going to direct himself in the character that he thinks it's right. And he does it. He studies it himself. So when he brings it on set, nobody knows. There's no way I can do that. Then once it's already done, you go to a close-up. Yeah, I do this thing. Sure. But he's already done it. And I didn't rehearse it that way because I didn't know he was going to do it.
Oh, man.
He is on that level. And you can't, it's hard to second guess him. But you just follow what he does as best as you can.
I just feel like he's that one actor that has directors like, did I write this right? Or you know what I'm saying? Did I direct this right? Like wow. I mean, it's amazing.
Since we're in Face Off, I wanted to ask, IMDb lets us down probably about 30%, of the time. 50% of the time.
Thank you.
With their trivia. So we saw on your website photos of Nicolas Cage's birthday cake on set. Something that appears to be a running theme I saw across multiple productions, but the trivia states on IMDb that John Woo let Nicolas Cage get all pumped up for a scene before surprising him with the cake, and it resulted in Cage asking Woo not to ever do that again, which I personally thought it sounded weird in itself, because it wasn't like there was going to be 2 birthdays. His birthday wasn't going to come around again on the same production. But it looked to me, based on the pictures on your website, that this is happening on multiple productions, and he always seemed pleasantly thrilled by the cake. So I'm assuming that the trivia is completely false, but I was wondering if you could confirm that.
I've never read any trivia. I only know what I saw on set. I don't know what went on behind the scenes. because I'm always on the set, in all fairness. So on the set, Nick was extremely gracious and pleasantly surprised that we did the cake thing. He was unaware that all that stuff was happening. We kind of knew that it was going to happen, but it would just break and then they would do it, like on Scorsese's set and Michael Bay's and so forth. It just happened to be that we're filming in January on these films. And John Woo and Cage, I would say, are as close as they can possibly be. There was not a second of animosity between them. I think that those guys were like swinging sisters. They were like buddies the entire time. The dynamic between those two was very close. It was like good buddies, respectable buddies working together. I didn't feel anything or saw anything in Wind Talkers or on Face Off.
Well, you brought up Wind Talkers. I was going to ask you about that because now we're on John Woo. A few years later, you worked with John Woo on Wind Talkers. What was it like specifically to work with him? Because it's not just Wind Talkers, it's Face Off. Like, what was
Hard Target.
Hard Target. Thank you. What was it like to work with him?
Truthfully, I love this guy. This guy is a very soft-spoken man who barely speaks English, or at the time he barely spoke English, and is just. He's all about humor and perfection. Now, this guy dances around everything. He's smart. He's witty. He knows what he wants out of the shot. Verbally, he doesn't relate as well as he does when it comes to visual motion. It's almost like charades, but he gets his point across, and the cinematographer would always collaborate with him. And of course, they always had producer was Terrence Chang. I also think that he kind of acted as a translator at times.
I think they had Sam Raimi on Hard Target as like a translation to kind of to help direct or be the translation between the director and the cast. You ever heard that?
I have no idea.
He's one of those directors that you can kind of tell that you're watching one of his films before you see his name in the credits, because he has just that kind of visionary style, especially when you see the dubs.
Yeah, he's a super generous guy, and he keeps the set as difficult as the set is. I'd say, and then that's why Wind Talkers was a very hard film logistically and strategically to film in Hawaii. Face Off was also hard, but there was a dynamic to Face Off that is my favorite film to have ever worked on. It was so damn tough to be there for 5 straight months, but it was because of Woo's presence. Remember, the director kind of sets the tone of how everyone else is going to feel. If you have a real antsy, fucked up director, everything else is kind of shaky. That's already happened, of course. But when Woo's there, it's all very relaxed, but very professional. And there's always humor induced into everything. He likes humor. And
I like that.
Loves humor, and I think that those two really got along well. And I loved working with John Woo. I thought we got along very well.
No, I can agree with you. From all the research we've done, it seems like everything you're saying is from everything that we've read. Now, speaking of John's, now we saw out of all again, you have some of the greatest photos ever on your page. So we saw a nice photo of you and John Travolta on set, and I've had the opportunity of working with John on a set of a film called Lonely Hearts that was actually filmed in Florida here, and so I think I can call him John. He shook my hand and said, "Hey, you're doing great." I was like, "Well, call me in a few years, John boy." Now, I want to ask you this. What was your experience like working with Mr. Travolta?
I liked him an awful lot. I would say that he's always one of these jovial, happy people. He breaks character and gets into this whole social scene on set a lot. Unlike Cage, who was very methodical about most everything that he did on set, Travolta was this Mr. America. It was like he was a celebrity, a movie star, and an actor all at the same time. So when they broke, he goes into this whole, if people talk to him, he talks, he's this, he's that. I was invited to his trailer a few times, sit down, we have coffee along with, other people in the entourage. And he was just that guy. It's like, come on over, sit down, have lunch at the trailer, shoot the shit. He's just like this all the time. The opposite was with Nick Cage, who was very into his role and into his character and stuff, and kind of reserved the energy for what he was doing on set versus exuding all energy as Travolta was. But he went on and on and on. He was like an octopus all the time.
Is it true that there was like a little bit of an overlap in production between Face Off and Conair?
Yes.
How much of an overlap? Like, I'm very interested in to do one movie is a lot of work, but to do two films
at the same time,
and especially two action films where you're
one with
lead.
a mullet and one with no mullet.
Yeah,
it's a lot going on.
Yeah. So what was it like a month or a few weeks or?
To what I remember and what I understand, I think it was a maximum of 2 weeks. They started shooting Travolta scenes. Anything to do with JT, anything that excluded Cage, they were filming, including some stunt stuff. And I think it was about a 2-week overlap. We had run way over on Conair, and at that point they couldn't. They were running out of things to film without Cage, so they said you have to come on. So we were working on 2 film sets at the same time. The hours were like 18-hour days. It was quite insane. Wow. You had your hair, makeup, wardrobe people completely derobing him, putting him into the face-off look, and then putting him back into the cock. And it was insane to go back and forth. And I was at method stand-in to also flip back and forth. And it was really exhausting.
Did you guys wear the same hairpiece?
We did. Yeah. Well, I didn't have his hairpiece. I had like the...
All right, your turn.
I had the stunt guy's hairpiece as needed. At a certain point, they don't really need it because now they know how to light it. So you don't have to go through all that trouble. But it was a lot of stuff because we immediately went on stage for Face Off, and we were still doing Conair. So we'd finish one film and then go on to the next set. And it was kind of crazy. And the locations were all over the place. I think I was so exhausted just being there because I was a crew member. I was a crew member on 2 crews, and that lasted several days for that part of it until we were finally done with Conair.
So, and if you're doing 2 productions, where's the sleep?
There wasn't any.
That's wild.
And here's the thing. He never fucking complains. I complain
That's
like
awesome.
He never complains. Never. Whether you're sick, you're tired, you're this, you're that, blah, blah. It didn't matter what it was. He just rolled with it.
Hey, Nick, your stand-in's complaining. He's fine because I'm fine. We're fine.
I was a diva. People complained about me for complaining because I was a fucking diva. I was like, dude, I'm exhausted. They're like, shut up. The actor's not complaining. Why are you complaining?
I do know one time that he did complain, and this is one of the times I told you that one of my favorite scenes of the film for Face Off. After
no, you don't know though.
Well, I don't.
IMDb fact.
Well, it's IMDb fact. Well, me thinks it was one of the best scenes in the film. IMDb does say we're 50-50 here that Nicolas Cage was so disgusted by the makeup for his faceless scene when his face was removed that John Woo had to remove any reflective surfaces from the line of sight. But me and him, when we did the review of the film, I said one of my favorite scenes was in the glasses of the doctor, you saw a bloody Castor Troy. And that's one of my favorite scenes of the film because he almost looks like Heath Ledger in the Joker with the fucking smile and smoking the cigarette. I love that shit.
I do too. I loved it. I actually don't know the backstory of that. The backstory would be a better question with the writers. They were there every single day. They're actually friends of mine, and they were on set every single day. And John Woo wanted them on set. They're great guys, and they were co-producers, the creators, and the writers of the thing. So they would have the right answer.
Well, I will say this. One of the things me and him both appreciated about the film was that a lot of things were done practical. It wasn't a lot of CGI. Mm-hmm. I mean, most films around the time of Racer and a lot of the films were going so CGI with a lot of things, but Face Off really kept it practical, even with the plane scene. What were you looking at? You didn't think I was going to bring up Eraser?
Erasure is like, that's
because that was done around the same time those fucking alligators got on my fucking nerves in Eraser.
Fight Club.
But there wasn't a lot of CGI in Fight Club.
There was.
No, it wasn't.
This is a weird reference.
You just met me at a weird time in my life. All right, whatever.
That really threw me.
Did it?
Well, I'm gonna take this question.
Please.
In each episode, we kind of go through our favorite scenes from the movie. What was your favorite scene in Face Off?
I hate to be so generic, but I'm gonna say when he does that whole Face Off thing in the loft. That was my favorite scene because it wasn't in the script, and he executed it brilliantly. As much respect as you have for this man, you develop even more respect for him. And I felt so proud to be on that set and to be thinking, look at me, I'm working for this guy. this guy, and who I would never in a billion years come near, in terms of understanding what he does. And I just felt really privileged to be on that set. So I would say it's that scene was my favorite, and being in that loft was just great.
I have this line that he knows what I'm getting ready to say here. I have this line that I always say, especially when me and him are filming, is I don't read the script reads me. There's only one other actor in this world that can use that, and that is Nicolas Cage, because he embodies it.
And
so I agree.
Usually that's such a pet peeve of mine when they say the title of the movie in a way.
I told you I got mad at you about that.
Cue credits. But he made it work in that scene.
No.
There's a degree of self-awareness to it. I want to take his face.
What about when James Brown is playing in the background and John Travolta says, Papa's got a brand new bag? I'm like, they're playing that. I don't need you to say that to me right now. But okay, I get it.
Nicolas Cage can pull it off, though.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, that's a great scene. And then as far as the production as a whole, do you have a favorite memory in particular from the Face Off production?
I loved being next to John Woo on the monitor and watching and learning. I will say that to me was probably the biggest honor of my stand-in film career. The fact that he invited me to sit next to him often, and like next to him, as if I was his son. It was very strange to have that dynamic, to be the stand-in, but they saw how seriously I took everything and how everything should be done right. And I think that he respected that. So I would say that was probably my favorite thing that happened in terms of closeness. I developed a bunch of close relationships with different people on that film set, including my friend Mary, whose house I'm sitting in, who designed the wigs for Nick Cage, who's brilliant, and did that and did his hair on that entire film. But just being there and watching John Woo and having him ask me questions or to go through the motion, and him trusting me to be Nick Cage, even though I'm physically a lot heavier at this point, or at that point, that made me feel like I was included in the VIP list. It's a real big deal. You don't get that in the position of a stand-in, guys. This was a very privileged moment. I recognize it as a privileged moment, and I worked and I respected it, and that to me was a big deal.
I'm glad that you said that, because we've interviewed over 75 guests, and there's only a few guests who've said what you've said, and I agree with it. When you're on set, it doesn't matter whether you're a stand-in, a cinematographer, craft services. If someone invites you to do something, they'll soak up all that knowledge, because being in film is like being on a golf course. You're going to need more than one club, and you better know how to use all of them. And that way it's about the end game. It's about the long game. So clearly, like, I don't like that you said you're not a great actor, you're not this great talent, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's how you feel. But if I'm a great director, I can still use you in the way that I need to use you, because you appreciate what it takes to do what's being done. So keep it up. If I ever cast you, you won't be Nick Cage's stand-in. I just want to tell you that right now. I'll just tell you that. But let me ask them, I will say this before we move on from Face Off. Is there anything that you want to tell people about the film that they may not know, that may not be on IMDb, or that they've never heard? Is there anything that you want to exclusively break on this show about Face Off?
Well, that's not IMDb. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the general actors and so forth. There was a lot of harmony between the actors, a lot of downtime because of the setups were just endless setups. Mm-hmm. The stunt guys had their work cut out for them that you may or may not understand, especially in the boat scene. Those guys were crazy. And
I wasn't
on that scene as well. I was never on that set. I just want you to know. I never made it to the boat set because it was all stunt and actors, had nothing to do with us. So to be very clear, it was all.
Well, I'm sorry. You see us both like chomping at the bit to say, listen, you did such a great job. We knew that was not you at the boat scene, because we both were like, now, wait a goddamn minute now. Hold on.
Either. That is a John Travolta. No, that was the one funny moment.
You don't want to toot your own horn, guys, or anything kind of weird, because the stunt guys were great stunt guys, and they did it.
They were. I wouldn't do it.
During those scenes, us stand-ins were just on the sidelines doing photo double insert shots on another on another unit. And while they went and did all their serious work with stunts, which was quite serious because it was dangerous, that was with the director and actors and stunt guys. That there's no reason to drag this luggage onto that boat.
There you go.
Nice.
And see, that wasn't CGI, David. That wasn't. See, that's what I'm trying to tell you. But one thing
I
you
didn't say it was CGI.
You did not. But one thing you did not, I don't even know if you noticed this. We again, you say we were film buffs. Like, okay, so we're dressed as priests, which can be considered, I guess, Catholic, somewhat religious Jesus. The one thing that we really love that Nicolas Cage is not standing stunt double, technically walked on water. Doing that scene on the boat, because remember he got up and he was like riding on water on the side of the boat. We're like, wait a minute, this Jesus priest is riding or walking on water.
Church shoes too.
Well, you saw
Yeah.
that, I didn't.